I'm the artist Bill Gannon, and this is my work as part of my contribution to retelling the story of the 1874 trek led by John Forrest. The work is in oils, and it's a storytelling and a melding of landscapes. The beginning of the story is about the 6 explorers. Led by John Forrest, with his brother Alexander, 2 critical players being Tommy Windrus and Tommy Pierre, a farrier and a policeman. The 6 were the ones who all crossed together. You needed all 6 to pull off what they did. They had 20 horses, and it was a matter of going to link the west to the east in country that was unknown. The journey starts around Geraldton, and the dotted line indicates roughly a snake line of the path they take. There was an official photo taken of the 6 explorers on their horses before they left. John was the leader, and he'd often be portrayed in a very heroic way, guarding with a rifle, gaiters, and quite official looking compared to the other travellers. They went through the White Gum area. This is wonderful country. It was already known, and it was pastoral. Good grasses for cattle and the growth of the then fledgling colony. There's only 25,000 people, but they were starting to expand up into the Geraldton area. The exploration was about surveyors mapping their area out and using materials such as a telescope, chronometer, to check the latitude and the longitudes. The explorers would have a diary where they would not only put in written form where they were and the latitude, longitudes and the other records, but also do illustrations of the country they passed through. That topography was quite accurate for the sort of comparison to other explorers that were doing work in Australia at the time. My work was to reflect some of the feelings, including the starry night. In my view, for explorers in Australia, that would have been the comfortable beginning of a journey. They know the skies, they did stellar observations, and that gave them a comfort. They knew where they were. It also, for the Aboriginal people, had known a long time into the skies and the relationship to the land, an intense understanding of, as they were going, the comfort to go into country. But they always had to think through what they were doing, and they went into other country where the marloo, the kangaroo, was used as a symbol for colours, and there was a quarry nearby where the Aboriginal men particularly would be dressed up in ceremony using the red of the blood, the yellow of the liver and the green of the gall to match their symbolism in their ceremonies. As our horse riders, there were 20 horses, but here we have the 6 riders going into country. As they went into country, I'm very conscious they saw emus constantly. So you even see this shadow, not of a horse, but of an emu. Next part of the journey is a lot to do with coming into country where there was conflict. And all the time when I'm going through country, I'm using a small sketchbook. And the sketchbook would be a means to be able to draw rather quickly some of the elements that I see in the landscape. And in fact, I did a drawing of the rocks that you'll see here. You can see that I've not put a dot here. The dot of the journey is hidden because that story, which had conflict, and there were definitely 2 deaths, fatalities of shooting down by the explorers when the natives came with their spears. There are other stories too by the Marloo people, but we're not sure what the final result is, so I hide the journey. Importantly, the next part of the journey and the next drawing shows what I did in the field with spinifex. And the spinifex rings are really quite pronounced when you go into the country. I did this drawing as though I was on the back of a horse looking down at the spinifex, knowing that I wanted to reflect that as it went up into the distance. So I'm using that distance to give a bigger feel of the vastness of the area. Very important in this exercise was to find water and to find direction as they went on their way east. Other explorers had got lost and died, such as Gibson, the name for the Gibson Desert. We go near the Gibson Desert in about an area here, and that person only died a few years earlier, lost in the desert. But with the careful thinking as they went through of finding water and food, watching birds, watching the climate, they found their way across the country where the clay pans came in, and then it was quite desolate in the vast interior. They came out of the vast interior on their way to the overland telegraph line that had only just been built from Adelaide up to Darwin. The other dotted lines that are shown here represent Giles, Warburton and Gross, who were explorers just prior to the work done by the expedition led by Forrest. Forrest is the successful one who makes it all the way across. Having got to the overland telegraph line, he achieved a personal aim. Most Australian explorers, especially these guys who are born and bred in Australia, the first of the new wave explorers, others came from England and the Army and the British Empire, he would then be able to achieve getting the gold medal from the patron of the Royal Geographic Society. That meant a lot to the fledgling Australian colony, and particularly to John Forrest. At the end of the journey, they made their way down to Adelaide. Official photography was made, but the celebrations in Adelaide were really well written up in the Adelaide Advertiser, claiming 5,000 people came to rejoice on the arrival of the explorers.